Hey, today we have Stuart Moore, writer of Captain America for Dummies.
And so many more things.
And a lot of other stuff, and what we're going to talk about as well. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
No problem.
We really appreciate it.
Yeah. So let me start with first, why Captain America?
Well, the Dummies, Marvel has a whole line of Dummies books coming out, and it's a joint venture with Wiley, which publishes the non-comics Dummies books as well, the ones that tell you how to actually fix a car or learn a they asked me if I'd do Captain America. It was the first book in the line. We got it out in time for the movie earlier this year, and I've always liked the character, and it was an opportunity to actually get in there and read all the years and years of it that I haven't, or at least some of it I had to skim. But it seemed like on one level, and I haven't really said this before, but like in a year of sort of controversial politics and all that, like it seemed like an inspiring thing. Like Captain America is always not about a particular political party or ideology, but he's about the American dream, and just sort of putting that out there and getting summing it all up and showing all the different ways that's been dramatized over the years. It was kind of an inspiring thing to do.
It's great. I like that.
Now you actually went back and did research and read everything. How long did that take?
I didn't read everything, but it's I've said this before, but these books are a lot. I'm not even going to say easier to write. They're possible to write because of the Marvel Unlimited app, which just has everything up there, and you can scroll through it very fast. You can find things quickly. So that was kind of a way to speed read through runs of the book, familiarize myself with characters like some of the. There are a lot of Serpent Squad members.
It's funny. I did a whole series of shorts on our channel of all of the members.
Oh, did you?
I'm a huge fan of that, because I guess when I was really buying comics on my own and reading it for myself, that's when they were around, and it was just they always stand out to me as a great group of villains that joined forces and created mayhem and.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm a subscriber to the Marvel Unlimited app too, and I gotta tell you, with the research we do for this show, it really does help. It's a really good resource for things like that. Definitely a good one.
And the Serpent Squad was fun because you got Diamondback out of that too, who was Cap's girlfriend for a while, and she's very different from his other girlfriends, who were either Sharon's a SHIELD agent, obviously, and then Bernie was an interesting one, actually. I don't know how deep we want to get into this, but Bernie's a fun one. She's just an utterly normal person. She's almost for a comic book girlfriend, there's almost no one else like her, because she's just and that was resolutely how they played her. And eventually, I could see why they wanted to move on to something a little more. With a little more possibility for action and and intrigue, but she's a very charming character. I found myself really, touched by that part too. So.
Now, how did they reach out to you to do Captain America? How did that happen from the Dummies angle? Why you?
I think Marvel suggested me. I've written several Marvel novels, and I've worked with Marvel in a lot of capacities over the years.
For a long time, right? For many years, you've been working with them for many years.
Yeah. I was on staff. I was sort of on staff. It's a long story, but I was the editor of the Marvel Knights line for a while, and then after I went freelance, I edited their own line of prose novels for a while that they were publishing, and I wrote one or two of those both for them and for Titan and Aconite when they were doing them. So I keep in touch with those people, and I think they knew I could do this, and I think they knew I could do it fast, which was important. And it worked out really well. I'm talking to the Dummies people about doing more. There's nothing I can announce yet, but
that's sure. We love when people say that, because we have ideas for what Dummies. We think there needs to be an X-Men one, because that is confusing.
It would be 5 times the size of the Captain
X-Men get confusing at points in there.
Have they not announced one of those yet?
I haven't heard yet. I think I have. I have Fantastic Four, Captain America, Spider-Man, and Marvel. right? There's 4 that's out.
There were 4 that let it off. Yeah, that's
I have 4.
Yeah, I was saying the X-Men one would be like 3 times the size of a normal one because it's just so the continuity is so complicated.
And then who knows where it goes from there? I mean, maybe we get some, Superman and Batman, and it goes into the other one. But you actually worked for Brian's favorite imprint of all time. That's true. You worked for Vertigo for some time.
Yeah, I was one of the original editors at Vertigo. Yeah.
I'm a diehard Vertigo fan. I loved everything what led to it, and I loved all the stuff they put out that I've ever read. I'm huge. It was a huge influence on what I read and a lot of other stuff.
Yeah,
big influence.
Still to this day, he's still reading.
Yeah, I'm still collecting. I'm trying to finish the full Hellblazer run. But the original run, the 300, which is, of course, huge and complicated.
Yeah, it's a lot of that. Yeah. It's funny, I do work now with I do publishing operations for Ahoy Comics on the side.
Okay. I love their Toxic Avenger.
Yeah, that's fun stuff. But we're doing and that's the editor-in-chief of that is Tom Pyre, who was an editor at the beginning of Vertigo as well. Okay. He and I have been friends for forever. But we're doing it. We have a book out now with it's nice to be working with Garth Ennis again, because we're doing a book with him called Babs. That's just a parody of Red Sonja, basically.
I
recommend highly enough. It's really fun.
Love Garth Ennis' storytelling.
Is that out already?
The first series is out and is in trade paperback. The second series starts in January, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just talking to the Vertigo line, Preacher was a game changer as far as I thought, in my opinion, as far as comic storytelling. I thought it was just amazing, and I've loved Garth Ennis ever since.
Yep.
I've tried to track down everything.
He's a friend still too, and he lives in New York about half the year. So we get together a lot. It's nice.
Oh, so you're in New York also?
Yeah, I'm in Brooklyn. Yeah.
Oh, we're in Staten
Island.
All right. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So you worked with Marvel on something called Thanos' Death Sentence?
That was one of the novels I wrote for them. Yeah. That one that's probably my favorite of those books. And it just had a very simple. I came up with this. Well, actually, what happened? I shouldn't admit this, but I had been editing the line and I had to step back because I had too much other work going on. And Dan Abnett was supposed to write a Thanos novel. And Dan, of course, has done Guardians of the Galaxy. Like he's and he's a terrific novelist. He's a really good prose writer. And he had to back out. So I said to the new editor, I've had this idea for a Thanos novel, and I don't know if you want to do this, and I didn't think I had time to do it, but now maybe I could. And the whole idea was basically that in the early Thanos stories, Thanos he has this horrible love for Mistress Death. Like he wants to serve her and he wants to bring her souls, and that's why he's killing people. And later on, it became more of a population explosion thing, and that's where he wiped out half the population in the movies.
Right.
But I went back to that and I said, what if we just start with the Infinity War and he fails? Like the superheroes just defeat him completely. He goes sort of crawling back to Mistress Death, and she says, "Well, I can't. You're not worthy of me, and so I need you to roam the universe in different bodies until you've proven yourself worthy to me." So I have Thanos kind of stripped down. I give him this thing called the Infinity Wardrobe that lets him select a skin and just put it on. And that's where the story went. And it's got this weird kind of pace to it, and it's like 3 different stories. It's on the Kree homeworld for a while and everything. But I'm really happy with the way it came out. It's one of the few things I've written that came out almost exactly the way I wanted it to.
Oh, that sounds good.
Now, how did you originally get into comic books? As you were a writer for a very long time, right? You wrote for a long time, and then you were an editor.
No, the other way around more.
I
was more of an editor
then
first.
Writer. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've always written, but I got into I was a book editor first, and I laugh every time I tell the story, but I got the job at DC in the editorial group that became Vertigo a couple of years later. And the way I got that was just by answering an ad. They put an ad in Publishers Weekly which at the time had like a 3-week lag on ads. So nobody in book publishing who really wanted to fill a job would bother because they'd hope they'd get people in faster. But DC didn't. I think they didn't know that, and they weren't in a real hurry. They were expanding the department. It was a new position. So, and it was really the only time in my life I've ever read an ad and said, "Oh, that's me!" Like what they were looking for. Like it really, and it turned out I hit it off with Karen Berger, who was the head of the department, and yeah, I was there a long time. We did a lot of stuff. So that's how I did that. In terms of how I got into comics as a reader, like I read a lot of DC when I was a kid, and when I was about 16, a friend of mine just sat me down and like handed me all these stacks of Marvel comics and said, "Read these." Like, and that just blew my mind. That just changed my outlook on all of it. The Captain America Watergate stuff was in there. I remember
the Nomad era.
Right.
Yeah. The Nomad era.
That's great stuff.
Yeah.
That's a mind-blowing story if you think about it. I mean, if you really take a moment and think about what happened there, what the writers did was like you had like one of the flagship characters of Marvel Comics decide he wasn't going to be that character anymore because of a political event.
Right.
And it was, I can't imagine, like, that's a huge risk if you think about it. Maybe not then, but now it would be an enormous risk.
I think even back then, the writer had to kind of sneak it in a little bit. Like I think he didn't tell them everything. He did assure them that Captain America would be back, which you'd have to do, you know. But yeah, I that was a gutsy piece of work. It was it holds up pretty well, I think.
And they're talking about putting that's going to be the next chapter for Captain America in the movies, possibly. Chris Evans is going to play Nomad. That rumor's going around the last week or so that they're showing him kind of dressed up like him. It's AI stuff.
I'm sorry, who's going to be Nomad?
That Chris Evans, the Captain America, is going to come back to the movies as Nomad.
Oh wow!
So they've been rumors, nothing solid yet, but that's what they're saying. Following the next big movie, that they may look at Captain America as Nomad going forward, which I love that era. I'm a huge Captain America fan. I'm actually putting the run together right now, and it's that's one of my and Disturbance Society thing, which is some of my favorite stuff. I when I think about as I get older and I buy more and more comics, and the amount of comics I buy is insanity. I still relate the most as a kid to buying Captain America, because that's the ones that stood out to me when I was able to pick my comic books as a kid. I always picked the Captain America because the covers were just so fantastic to me. I still remember when I see a back issue and I'm like, I bought this when I was a kid off the newsstand. This cover was amazing. But I had for you. You've worked for a lot of different companies. What's the difference between working for a DC and a Marvel and then working now for an Ahoy or some of the smaller companies you worked for?
Well, I've worked for a lot of them in different capacities, different jobs. Ahoy is great because Tom and I have just known each other so long, and we just kind of if there's a problem, we just get on the phone. And what I do there is like deal with distributors, keep the schedules, things like that, which is work I haven't done before, and sort of has gotten me in touch and given me, skills within the industry that I didn't have before. It's been challenging with the demise of Diamond. Fortunately, Ahoy was in early with Lunar, so that worked out. But that's a different kind of job than I've done. And it's what I try to do. The way I try to work my day is to write in the morning and do the Ahoy stuff in the afternoon. It never works out quite that neatly, but that's the way my brain sort of divides up the day, ideally. Working at DC when I did, it was very exciting because the company was expanding. Especially at the time we started Vertigo, that was still during the speculator boom, sort of the tail end of it. But everything we had nice expense accounts, which was good. Which I miss those more than anything sometimes. But so that was cool. I came to Marvel in the Bill Jemas, Joe Quesada era, and that was very exciting, especially for about the first year, because we could do almost anything. Marvel had higher sales thresholds. The book had to sell more than I was used to. But we were encouraged to experiment and try all kinds of things. As those things tend to do, it kind of closed in a little bit as time went on. But that was a very exciting time. I prefer writing, though. I prefer working at home.
What are you writing now? What are you working on right now?
Well, I just actually out this week, I have this book from Bloomsbury called Doctor Strange: A Decade of Dark Magic.
Oh,
we can talk about that a little bit.
Oh, yes, let's talk about that. That's great.
And right now, I'm basically mostly working with Dummies, and I have another Marvel related project that hasn't been announced yet too. So it's been a lot of Marvel stuff, Marvel nonfiction lately.
So there's going to be a lot more Marvel Dummies books basically coming out. They're working on other things.
There will be more. I don't know how many. I know there's at least one.
Okay. The one that you're working on. All right.
Yeah. Maybe.
Okay. Yeah. Serpent Society for Dummies.
Dummies. There you go. You know what? Getting back to that a little bit, like the one thing that the one part of the research I really enjoyed was I had never in any sort of organized way read the Jack Kirby issues. Like the especially the 1960s ones. I'd read more of the 70s ones, I think. But the stuff he did with Stan, and those are really wild, and stuff happens fast. Like there's stuff going on, especially when it's in the back of is it Tales of Suspense? I get all those.
It's Tales of Suspense with they did 2 stories in each one.
Yep. Yep, and they I'm getting that mixed up because the same thing happened with Doctor Strange, who I just wrote about. But that was Strange Tales. But yeah, the Tales of Suspense stories, especially when he's bringing back the Red Skull. They're bringing back the Red Skull. They're introducing the Cosmic Cube. All that stuff just happens, bam, 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 really fast. And I really enjoyed those. I'd read them in pieces before, but just seeing the whole run, and then it spins off into Captain America's own comic. It's just wild stuff.
Yeah, we were talking. I think you did a video on the first 100 issues of Fantastic Four.
The first 100 issues,
and how it was just idea. That
something brand new, a brand new character
built the Marvel universe in just like so fast.
And that's what we're planning on doing. Every one of them. Like we're going to do Spider-Man's first 100 issues, and we do the big things. And we'll go to Cap, we'll go to Avengers. I have a whole lineup in my head that I want to do. And it's amazing how the ideas were just coming out. So many really great ideas that have stood the test of time that are still being used today. Mm-hmm. And it's just, I can't believe how much Stan Lee came out of his
and Kirby
and everybody else involved. Did you ever work with Stan Lee?
I did. I co-wrote three novels with him, actually. Called The Zodiac Legacy. They're for kids. They're for middle grade novels. It wasn't a close relationship. It was all through. It was through Disney. It was actually started before Disney bought Marvel. Marvel wasn't involved in this. It was with Stan's. It was with Stan's studio. I got notes from him or his people. It was a little hard to tell sometimes. And we did one signing together that was amazing. It was just great. He was in his mid-90s. He was in the middle of San Diego Con. I actually write about it in the Doctor Strange book because I talk about the time. In the Doctor Strange book, I talk about the time I met Stan, the time I met Steve Ditko, which was only once.
I was going to say, you've actually met Steve Ditko. Not a lot of people can say that.
Yeah. I'll tell you about that one. That one's not... I didn't talk to him that much, but the time I might have met Doctor Strange is in the but with Stan, we were doing these signings and it was right in the middle of it was a Disney booth right in the middle of San Diego Convention. So it's like people everywhere. He's got this whole retinue leading him around, these handlers. And he was well into his 90s by then. And I quickly realized half my job, we were both signing books, people would bring them up, but half my job was if people came up, he was a little hard of hearing, and somebody would say, "Oh, Mr. Lee, I came all the way from Mexico to meet you," and he'd say, "What?" And I'd lean in and say, "He came all the way from Mexico," and then Stan would just in perfectly normal volume would just say to him, "Oh, you came all the way from Mexico? That's so nice." He was still He knew he had the show down, he could do it, and it was really charming. And I tell the story in there. At one point, somebody came up to the table and said, "Oh, this is so great! I get to meet my idol." And I was just sort of swept up in it. And I pointed at Stan and I said, "Yeah, and him too." And I turned away, and Stan just backhanded me like on the chest like this. And I turned around and I was mortified. I thought, have I offended him? Like, and he was grinning at me. He just said, "Nobody likes a wise guy."
Oh, that is fantastic. Do you have anything from that time you were with him? You personally, do you have any? Like, did you get anything? Walk away with anything from there? Like
signed
or not? No.
No, it was chaos.
Picture,
like,
a picture of you and him. A nice picture of the two of you together.
I do have a picture of us, and his hair is much nicer than mine. He has more hair than I do, but yeah, no, I have a couple of pictures. That's
really cool. That's a legend. So tell us about Steve Ditko, because we're both big fans of Ditko.
Yeah,
I know and a lot of it is the mystery behind him too. Gets
Yeah, I mean that fuels so many.
Well, I wound up reading a lot about him because of this Doctor Strange book, which just came out. And this is what this book is. I don't want to take too much time on it because the other books are set up.
We want to hear about it. Let's hear about that.
But it's from Bloomsbury, and Bloomsbury publishes they publish a line of books called 33 and a Third that are these small format books about classic record albums, like one album. And you get music journalists write them, sometimes writers write them, musicians. Yeah. And this is the same thing, but with Marvel, and the books are a little bit larger format and have some color illustrations in them. But they're very sort of personal, and whatever topic they're on, like we were given very free reign to just like, so mine is sort of a mixture of comics history. Like I run down the first 10 years of Doctor Strange from 1963 to 73. Because again, I started reading, it was again the same writer who was doing Captain America. Steve Englehart was doing Doctor Strange in the early 70s. And those were like really mind-blowing stories for me. But I sort of turned into I did a lot of research into, like from the beginning, Doctor Strange was set in the East Village. And I did a lot of research there and started noticing places that I used to hang out, like when I was young and just moved to New York, and that sort of fed into the movie A Complete Unknown, which was just coming out and was about exactly that same area. So that wound up being sort of fun. Ditko, there's been a lot written about Ditko in the last few years. There have been whole books about him. Everyone knows he was an objectivist. He had extreme political ideas. And there's some philosophy that sort of way in the background of those Doctor Strange stories that you notice when you reread them as an adult. But the only time I met him was when I was at DC. Again, I think it was a little bit before we started Vertigo, and we were publishing a new version of his book Shade the Changing Man, and he wasn't involved in it.
That Vertigo run on that was fantastic.
Yeah, the Peter Milligan stuff.
Yeah. Oh, was that good?
And Ditko was in the office for some reason. I don't know why, but he stopped into he stopped in our office, and Tom Peyer, who again I'm still working with, is a giant fan of his. And just sat down. He and Elisa Whitney talked to Ditko almost all day. I edited comics because somebody had to do that, I guess. But I remember that the book had a credit line on it that said "Shade created by Steve Ditko," and this is in the Doctor Strange book too. But I don't mind. I don't mind spoiling this one. Ditko, he didn't love the book. He felt it wasn't really his character. But he really, I think, thought that the credit line was a little misleading. So after that, they changed it. After that meeting, they changed it to. Shade is based on the character created by Steve Ditko.
Oh, okay.
Like but he was, and most people who've met him will say this, like for a guy who was known for, he was known as a bit of a recluse. Like he didn't like to go to conventions. He didn't do anything like that. But he was a very soft-spoken, seemed like a very gentle man, and not at all like the kind of, not at all like his like later indie characters who would stand there and rant on the page about criminals are criminals, and once you cross that line you deserve death and all that.
Mr. A is like just this polemic.
but in person he wasn't like that at all. He was just very quiet, soft-spoken. Seemed like a very nice man.
Yeah. It's so funny because like there is so much mystique that surrounds him because he never gave interviews, didn't show up at conventions, and he just thought like, well, my work will speak for me, whatever.
Right, he didn't need to.
And I couldn't imagine him trying to make it in this environment now as a writer, like where you have to like be your own, you have to be your own marketer, you got to do your own social media, you got to do, like
you appear everywhere.
Yeah.
So, and what other legends have you met? Because it seems like you meet the big guys.
Well, like I said, I've worked a lot with Garth. I edited the beginning of Brian Bendis' run on Daredevil and Alias, which became Jessica Jones.
Yeah,
and that was cool stuff. That was fun at Marvel. I don't know. I just work with whoever I work with.
Doing your job.
You just work with people.
It just so happens they become legends.
People. Yeah.
If I could go back in time and meet anyone, I think from that era, I would really love to have a conversation with Jack Kirby.
Same here.
Yeah.
I never met him.
I would. And I have
heard that by the time I was in comics, like the last few years of his life, he pretty much only wanted to talk about the war. From what I heard, that's what people said.
He didn't want to talk about comics anymore.
Yeah, I would just love to, like, in the 60s, have a talk with, like, a half-hour chat with Jack Kirby, because I worship at the altar of Kirby. I think he's like, I love him.
The new God stuff is it for me. That's so it's so multi-leveled and complicated, and like the way the characters just recur and come around, and the mythical elements of it. Like I just love that stuff.
Genius. It was really genius at what he was writing.
This guy just picked up the first appearance of Darkseid
actually on Saturday.
Yeah,
I just bought.
Oh, in the original printing, is that where he's colored wrong? Is it? Jimmy Olsen.
Jimmy Olsen.
The Jimmy Olsen comic. 154. I think he's on a screen.
He's on a screen.
He's on a screen, and they colored him flesh colored because they didn't know yet. Yeah.
Right.
I buy a lot of comics regularly. That's basically how this show came about, and then it's just we love having you creators on. We love talking to you guys about the history and how we got here. So if you were asked to write another Dummies book, what character would you want to?
If they said choose anybody.
It doesn't have to. It could be Marvel, DC. Actually, give me one Marvel, give me one DC. Who you'd like to write?
Oh, so you're making it harder now.
Well, I've got my head around Doctor Strange right now, but probably my favorite Marvel character. And I have talked about doing something with somebody about this, but it hasn't come together. Is Howard the Duck? I would just.
I love that.
Howard the Duck.
Yeah, Howard's that's a great series.
And I was lucky when I was at Marvel.
I have one sitting right here.
No, you got it? What do you got?
Hold on, I'll show you.
You probably have one.
I have one sitting. I bought one the other day.
I have one of the issues where he ran for president.
That's the one I have.
Which was great. What a great storyline.
Hold on, I have it sitting. I can go back.
I wrote the introduction to the Masterworks of the first Masterworks.
Cool.
And when I was at Marvel, I was lucky enough. I got Gerber back on the character and edited the Max miniseries that sort of closed off Howard's journey a little bit.
That's the one I have too.
Yeah, that's
the exact issue I have.
That's a great cover too.
I've been buying this to rebuild this. So I think this character is a fantastic character, and even at this time specifically, it's so wacky, and the stories behind this and how he becomes, he Destroyer Duck comes out of it, and
Destroyer Duck.
That would be an awesome one. Would be. I don't know how many people would buy it, but it would be. I would buy it. I would 100% buy it. There's no question I would buy it. But
it's funny because I think there's a lot more excitement around that character now because he showed up in one of the movies and he had a What If episode.
He had a great What If episode.
I haven't seen that.
That is absolutely fantastic. His What If episode, and how he has a child, and that child becomes part of the Marvel universe from that. And he's a really unused character.
A couple of people have asked me about this lately, but like when we did a panel for these books at San Diego Con this year, somebody from the audience asked if you could write another one, what would you do? Or did you pitch anything else? And I said Howard the Duck, and to my surprise, an audible ooh rose up from the audience. Like
I think there are more fans than we think. Yeah. I think he's more popular than we might believe.
Or getting there, too.
Yeah.
I mean, the movie hurt him a bit, but...
Now the movie's become like a cult favorite.
Yeah, it's like a camp thing.
Yeah, that they revisit fondly.
Yeah.
They don't... There's not animosity toward it anymore.
Well, how about a strange Marvel characters for dummy? All the weird characters that
weird Marvel.
Like that would be fun. Yeah,
That,
I always like when like DC did a when they were doing those black and white collections, the showcase collections. They did they did one that was just it wasn't just, it had a little bit of Commandi in it, but it was all like just the world after disaster, and I loved that. I love when you throw a bunch of weird stuff together in the volume.
So who would your DC character be if you were going to write a DC?
Boy. I mean, I always have a soft spot for John Constantine.
My favorite comic book character of all time.
Vertigo guy, so of course
he is my favorite comic book character of all time. Without a doubt.
Otherwise, like I could be boring and say Batman because I've always just loved Batman, but you know, that's everyone says that.
How big? Like, look at that. Like, it's funny because the first thing I thought of when I picked up the Fantastic Four for Dummies first, and then that's led to us interviewing all of you guys who were writing them. The first thing I thought of was Marvel, how they have such a shorter history. That if you did a Batman one, how thick would a Batman or a Superman?
It's too much.
Superman would be. It would have to be so big.
It might have to be more than one volume.
Right.
You can do that. Yeah.
I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. What's your favorite Hellblazer story?
It's probably there's so many, but I really love the original Jamie Delano run, and the two stories I remember from that are Dead Boy's Heart, which is just a single issue about little John Constantine when he's a kid.
Yes,
that really got to me.
That's a great issue,
and the Family Man too. The Family Man
is excellent.
Where just the entire sequence where, in order to get sort of revenge for his father, Constantine has to go buy a gun, and it's so hard. Like every step of it is so difficult.
Yeah. That's a great thing because that highlights the reason I love him is because he tries so hard to do the right thing, and he just constantly falls down and keeps trying. You know what I mean? Like
my one of the comics that really changed my life, I think, was I think it's issue 4 or 5. I'm not sure, 3 or 4. It's called When Johnny Comes Marching Home, and it's just it's this character who's haunted by memories of Vietnam, and the violence comes home. And it was the first comic I'd ever read where the main character Constantine kind of witnesses something horrible, decides, I can't do anything about this.
Nothing to do.
Just kind of walks away.
There's nothing I can do.
Like, this is bigger than me. That was amazing. I'd never seen it. Very not American. You know what I mean?
Very not.
Not an American mindset.
Yeah, shocking. It's very, very like as someone I know would say, it's very English. It's very like, well, that sounds like a you problem. So
I love some of Garth's stories too that I edited. I
like Dangerous Habits a lot.
Dangerous Habits is great. The last one, Rake at the Gates of Hell, I think is a little
really
people
good.
Don't talk about that one as much.
That's where he fights the National Front people.
Yeah, right? There's some of that. There's also the racism story, which was the first one. It was when Steve Dillon was really just coming on as regular artist. Yeah, and that one's really
a good one too. I've always liked. There's a 2-story arc that Grant Morrison wrote called When the Devil Came to Thursdyke, about the little town that just goes mad over a festival, a pagan festival.
Yeah, that's great.
What a story.
David Lloyd.
Yeah, David Lloyd drew that. That's right. Yeah, that's a good one.
Once I said Vertigo, I knew you were going to go.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I could talk all night now.
I know you can. I know.
Wait till I bring up Nuke Face papers.
Oh yeah.
So with for Dummies coming out and the Doctor Strange book coming out, are you doing any convention appearances or anything scheduled?
I usually do San Diego, and I was around at New York Comic Con, but there wasn't too much scheduled to promote this stuff. Okay. So I went there. I went to New York mostly for Ahoy, that we did. That Lunar had a retailer meeting and things like that. San Diego, I did a bunch of things, including some interviews for another Marvel book that I have to wait for the publisher to announce it.
Sure.
But that was I love that con, and what I really love about it is I can do almost all my work out back of the Marriott Hotel at the Tiki Bar. I almost never have to go to the convention itself. But but that's just fun. But yeah, I got a lot. That was just a whirl. I was doing about a third Ahoy, a third research for that other book, and a third just sort of meeting with my editors and things like that. So it was cool. It worked out.
So you do the big two. You do San Diego and you show up at New York because it's in
New York.
in your backyard.
Yeah, New York. I'm here. I actually don't love that convention. It gets much too crowded. I don't think they monitor it very well.
Me neither. I think this year, and we were there on Saturday this year. I think this year they didn't limit anything, and it was because it was
so crowded.
It was.
And there weren't a lot of comics.
No, there weren't a lot.
We complained about this to everybody. We're like, there wasn't that many comics.
There were 2 rows of comic vendors, and that was it. And the rest was, big. It's become more past the comic convention now. It's not really a comic convention anymore. It's a pop culture.
It has a nice artist alley. I like to get down
artist alley. We had a great time at artist alley. We really did. We had a great time there.
That would be from here on out. That'll be my main reason for going. Is just to go to
and we do a lot of interviews. So we went to meet all the people we had interviewed over the year, just to meet them in person and say hello and chat and take pictures with whoever had been on the show before.
Whoever was willing to talk.
Was willing to come.
You're still on speaking terms.
Yes, we haven't offended yet. We try not to, but
we haven't offended anyone.
No, but we, like you said, you have projects coming up we can't talk about. We've had instances where we've interviewed someone and they mention that project, and then afterwards they'll be like, "Listen, you cannot
please
put that out there. I could get in a lot of trouble with my publisher that I'm not allowed to talk about that." So I'm glad when you say I can't talk about it, because to me, as I'm the editor of these videos, I go, "Oh, I really hope that he doesn't pull back."
Especially with Marvel and DC, I try to be especially careful about that. They and I understand it. Like they need to schedule out when they promote different kinds of projects and things like that. They have a lot.
Yeah. What I took from it is that Marvel and DC watch our videos. That's what I do.
That's good. Yeah.
They're monitoring us to make sure you guys aren't talking about any stuff you're not supposed to. Thank you. Hi, Marvel and DC. Thank you. Thanks for watching. I have a strange question. You worked on the Scribblenauts Unmasked video game?
No.
That came up in my notes. No, you didn't. You didn't. You haven't done any animation.
I haven't done any animation. I don't have the gaming gene. I haven't done any of that.
I thought it was very strange that out of everything you've done, and you've been around a long time, that came up in something, and it must have been.
Somebody crossed the wires.
Someone crushed you up.
Yeah. I bet it was the AI. I bet it was AI. I bet it was Google AI.
It probably was. That they came up and said that you wrote Scribblenauts.
Or there's another Stuart Moore who might have done that. Yeah.
For Scribblenauts.
Who knows?
So just when in writing these for Dummies,
I could make up some.
Sure, that would be great.
If you want, it was great.
It was great.
I just sit down with a crayon and make it work. It's called Scribblenauts. So,
thank you.
Go ahead.
How does it differ writing for Dummies as compared to writing comic books?
Yeah, for Dummies, that was an interesting process because it was a lot of research, but all the research was reading comic books. There was really nothing else.
Sounds like a dream.
It was but it was intensive. It had to be done pretty fast. And in some cases, what I did with that book, and I'm not doing that necessarily with future Dummies books because the topic is different. But But what I did with that book was, in some cases, I did all the research. I read a period of the book at a time, like the Golden Age stuff, the 50s revival, whatever. Yeah. And I would pull out artwork that we wanted, that I thought that I was going to suggest we use, and I kept a log of that. And in some cases, I used the artwork almost to pull me through the writing, like because I would find a moment, like a key. Like action and conversation scene between Cap and the Red Skull, or something like that, and that would sort of guide me through what I had to explain, how to approach this period in the series. It was a bit of a whirl. I think it went pretty well. The Dummies people have the process of producing these books down to a science. Yeah. Like they know, and they're really good at it, and they're really good to work with. But and in this case, I turned it in pieces, and we got it approved by Marvel as we went along. Marvel had to
they're part of the process. So Marvel is involved with approving what? Okay,
yeah, I would imagine.
I would mention, but I didn't know how thoroughly they would.
I think Disney carefully watches everything attached to them at this point. Yeah,
they do. Yeah. There weren't a lot of issues with this because I wasn't writing anything controversial.
Right.
and I wasn't but what mostly they had to do is they had to pull a lot of art for us, like, because the art all comes from their library.
Well, sure.
And they had to do that, but they questioned a couple of things, they pushed back on a couple of things, but I really don't remember too many bumps in this on that process at all. Some of if you get into a book, like the Bloomsbury books are a little more opinion, and in that case they'll there's a little back and forth there, nothing that damaged the book, but it was and I have worked with the people at Marvel who approve this stuff for a long time. Right. A lot of them have been there quite a while, and I kind of have a pretty good sense of what they'll approve. When I was writing novels for Aconite Books, I wrote 2 books that were actually technically they were tie-ins to the Marvel Crisis Protocol game, which is the tabletop miniature game, and that let us use a lot of the big characters. But in the first one, they did push back at me on some things I hadn't clicked on, like the fact that Ms. Marvel, the new Ms. Marvel, no one can know her secret identity. The only people who know it are her closest friends at school. And I hadn't been quite as careful about that. Like, I thought Spider-Man might be okay to learn it, something like that. And it wasn't. So there were little details like that. And it was largely with some of the newer characters that I just wasn't quite as familiar with. But it wasn't anything in terms of actual portrayal. It was just little details like that I had to be careful about.
That's right.
Cool. Now, when you're writing these books, do you start with the structure and then research around it, or do you start the research, then build the structure from there?
Again, they're all different kinds of books, but they're always.
Well, I guess I meant the Dummies books. So I was curious about.
Dummies, Dummies. You have a pretty detailed outline. You work out a detailed outline, and in fact, the Dummies people at Wiley had done a very rough version for themselves before I came on, before they hired me, and I think Marvel might have given them some notes on it. I can't remember exactly. It was all happening very fast, but I restructured it a bit. Like I said, no, we need to do this. Like, move this around, and then as you go, you start to realize one thing about all the Dummies books, like not just the Marvel ones, is they're designed to be modular. You're not supposed to have to read them start to finish. Like, if you're really only interested in, let's say, the Serpent Squad, you can jump to that section, and there'll be little cross references and things that point you to other parts of the book for stuff you might have missed. So as I was writing it, like, one of this is really the only challenge, like I would say, to doing it, was that because it's set up that way, you have to be careful not to repeat yourself, because like Sam Wilson comes into the thing like 5 different ways, like as the Falcon, as the new Captain America, as just part of a run of the book in the 60s, and I just had to be careful. And you cross-reference, you tell people, go back and look here for this part of it. But I realized that, and on a second Dummies book, I would be a little more keyed into this at the outline stage. But like, I just had to be a little careful that I hadn't and I had to go back into some chapters and take a few things out so that I wasn't spoiling them for stuff I needed to do later. So that was the trick of it. But yeah, it's a pretty tight outline. And then there's also, like, there's always room in those books to just sort of play a little bit. Like, you find a cool story you want to play up a little more. One thing I managed to do in there was the only time I've actually worked on Captain America for any length of time. I wrote him a little bit in some of the novels, but was when I was the editor of the Marvel Knights relaunch with John Cassidy and John Reber. And that run didn't last very long, but that happened right at right after 9/11. And we were already working on the book, and both John Reber and John Cassidy, the writer and artist, like, were like, no, we have to address this. Like, we have to, and we sort of pulled back, and they did a whole new first issue. And I think that worked out pretty well for at the time, and it seemed really necessary. So I talk about that. So there's room in the book for a few little digressions like that, and just talk about favorite storylines. But for the most part, it's like the guide to I just said they're doing polygamy for dummies. Like, so, it's like that.
Okay.
Like you pick it up because you want to know.
That's big difference from Captain America.
Are they actually doing polygamy for dummies? Is that
I
something?
think it's out. Actually, I haven't seen it, but I think it's out. Yeah.
Well, you want to have that the writer on there too. The writer of polygamy for dummies. I don't know how much your wife would like that.
What's in that book?
You're gonna have to buy it and see what's in that book.
I don't know what's in it, but I'm not sure this is. I mean, I guess that's why you have the book, but I'm not sure this is a subject that dummies should really try to do. You might want to know what you're doing.
Weird.
Yeah. Anyway,
that's so weird.
How to get away with it. That's why you need
to get away with it.
But of course, a lot of the other books are about, learning a computer language or something like that.
I mean, I think that's how a lot of us learned computer languages was for dummies books. I know. When computers first started coming out, I had like 3 or 4 of them for computer-based dummy stuff.
I downloaded the football one years ago just because I was like, let me see what I can learn more about.
Maybe you get wrestling for dummies and learn a little bit more.
One thing they tell you when you're writing these books is they have a whole they actually have a whole guide it's a PDF. It's about 80 pages long, and it's called Writing a Dummies Book for Dummies. And it's done in exactly the format of
and they give it to everyone.
They give it to everyone. And it's really helpful because not just because it covers almost every aspect of writing the book, but because it's in the exact format. Right. So you can look at it while you're doing it, while you're writing yours.
That's it's a mod.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. Now, have you had any interaction with the other writers from the Dummies books, like Justin or Eric? Have you... Gene, right? Is the other one? Gene wrote Spider-Man.
I'm
4 of you.
blanking on him, but there's
Justin Peniston.
There's the guy who wrote is it? Oh shoot, I can't remember. The only contact I've had with any of them is just sort of roughly in the course of the PR when we've done. We did interviews. We did 1 or 2 interviews with more than one of us and stuff like that. No, I don't really know any of them very well. But yeah, it's for me at least, it was a good. It was a very smooth process, and the people at the publisher were just great to work with.
You've been in the industry longer than any of the rest of them, probably combined.
I hope not. But
there's
a lot of them.
He's been in the industry for a very long time. A very long. No, there's
a lot of those guys.
There's 4 of you right now, right? There's 4 of you writing.
Yeah, we're just looking at the comics ones.
4. There's the comic ones. There's 4 have been out. Spider-Man, Captain America, Fantastic Four, Marvel. That's the 4. I have them sitting upstairs.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And I really enjoy them because I see them as more like a reference that I can go back and reference them, because I have a lot of the comic books that are referenced there, and I think it's a great reference for anyone who's even a longtime fan or someone it's a great way to get caught up if you're just jumping in too. It's a great way to start.
That's true. To me, I thought they might also be. It might also be a good gift book. Like if you had someone who was just interested in the subject, but knew Captain America from the movies, but didn't really know enough about it. That might be a nice thing.
Well, it solves one of the big problems of superhero comics, which is entry point.
Yeah,
because so many people are afraid to jump in because of continuity. This can help that. If somebody's really interested in getting into it.
Yeah. So we don't want to take up too much more of your time, but my last question is: you've been in the industry for a very long time. If you had some advice to give someone who's just trying to get into the industry, what would your advice be to a comic writer who's trying to break in right now?
Okay. I mean, it's always tough. I think it was Devin Grayson who said that breaking into comics is it's like tunneling out of prison. Like every time you find an escape route, they block it up, and the next person has to find another one. Kind of like the way I did it is ridiculous. Like I literally answered an ad, to actually really write comics, I had to quit my staff jobs. The days of editors writing on the side are pretty much over. Like that, it's not exclusively true, especially at some of the smaller companies, but at DC and Marvel, it really doesn't happen anymore. Yeah. So if having a staff job is a really good way to meet people and sort of get a feel for the industry, but it's not really a great way to break in as a writer. The other hard thing is a lot of people want to be writers, and it's also a little harder for editors to review writing samples than it is for them to review art samples, because the art is right there. It's very easy to digest. So what you really have to do is kind of, I think the best, probably everyone needs to find their own way, but but the advice I usually give is just write anything you can. Like just do your own work. Try and produce a small comic. If you have a friend who's a competent artist, make sure they're at least a competent fan artist, because you want the stuff to look good, and print it up. Always make a physical copy, because digital stuff just flies past people. They don't even notice it. If you have something you can hand to an editor at a convention, you have at least a shot at that. They'll notice it. They'll remember it. The retention's much better. Also, write for other fields. Like, I wouldn't be able to do what I do if I hadn't written novels, if I hadn't written nonfiction. Even like, somebody was just reminding me of this. Like 10 years ago, Marie Javins and I, she's the editor-in-chief of DC now. She and I wrote a few of the Marvel Art of the Movie books. Like, and that was kind of cool too. Like, it got us. It was.
Which ones did you do?
Thor: The Dark World and Iron Man 3. And at the time,
I love those books.
They're really fun, and they're beautiful books.
They're beautiful, they really, and they're hard to find too. Really hard to find.
Are they?
Yeah,
okay. Didn't know that. Yeah, they were hard to do at the time, because we had to get interviews with all the sort of behind the scenes people, the set designers, the special effects people, and everything. And at the time, that was like the height of Marvel's movie production. They were all working on like 5 movies at once. So just getting them on the phone was hard. It would be a little easier now, and it'd be a lot easier now with AI transcription of interviews. But yeah, it was fun. But in the end, it was a lot of, especially since we were on the opposite coast, like it was a lot of like waiting for people to have time to call you back. Then you got to get the recording equipment. Like it wasn't as easy as it is now with Zoom. So.
This makes everything a lot easier. Even though we're probably 20 minutes from each other right now, it's easy.
Yeah, we could. I said that my
at this time it's at least an hour.
Yeah, true. My Bloomsbury editors wanted to meet up during New York Comic Con. I'm like, great. We get there, it's really crowded. And I said, I could just come up to your office. Like you're in New York. And they're like, yeah, we thought of that. We thought of that after.
Why not? That would be easier. So, when does Captain Ginger for Dummies come out?
Captain Ginger. Oh, I have plans for Captain Ginger, but they're not too far along yet. I love that book. I would write that book all day long if I could.
You'd have to find the time now, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
We'll have you back on when the Captain Ginger book comes out.
I'll hold you to that.
So when you're able to talk about the next For Dummies book that comes out, when it comes out, we'd love to have you back on to talk about that, because now we want everyone to guess what you're writing the For Dummies on now. What could be the guess in the comments? What could be the next For Dummies book? Let's see.
Brother Power the Geek.
Brother Power the Geek.
I just keep bringing them up, but
it'll be a short.
Somebody will pick it up.
It'll be a short volume. Yes,
very. I know it's DC, but whatever. I have to include his name in every interview.
You do. I know. He's in some way. Rapid fire. Thor for Dummies. Iron Man for Dummies. No, sorry. I'm kidding. But thank you so much for taking time with us. We really appreciate it. And again, if you ever want to come back on to promote anything, just let us know.
Yeah, reach out.
I will. This is fun.
This was a lot of fun. Thank you. And I really enjoyed the book. I'm a big Captain America. Serpent Society for Dummies is, I'm waiting.
Yes.
Thank you. We will talk to you soon. Have a good one.
Sounds good. Take care, you guys.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye.